I'm Errol Lee. Coming up in this newscast, West Kingston inquiry resumes today with former resident accusing soldiers of stealing clothes and jewelry. Carly Smith Drive residents protest shooting of a member of the community by the police. Ministry of Education says today saw a smooth start as the schools reopened, and JLP expresses concern that new Cybercrimes Act threatens freedom of expression. Now the details. Public hearings at the West Kingston Commission of Inquiry resumed this morning in Kingston, with a former resident of Tivoli Gardens blaming soldiers in the community for items of jewelry and clothing missing from her home. Sandra Shaw testified that a chain valued at £235 was missing along with some new clothes. She recounted that she left the community to stay with her mother in Denham Town during the operation to apprehend then Tivoli Don Christopher Duduskok. On her return, however, the woman said soldiers were found occupying her house and she wasn't allowed to enter. Shaw said her grill was damaged along with tiles in her bathroom, which she repaired for $6,000. She said she was given $15,000 for damage to her clothes. Inquiry Chairman Sir David Simmons questioned if she asked the soldiers what they were doing in her house, but she said she didn't want to get into any argument with them because she feared they would hit her and she would hit them back and they would have arrested her. The inquiry, which started on December 1st last year, is looking into the circumstances surrounding the 2010 police military operation that left more than 70 civilians dead. That operation was aimed at capturing Christopher Duduskok, who was then wanted in the U.S. Following the September session, there will be two others, leading to the end of public hearings on December 11. The St. Andrew Central Police are keeping a close watch on sections of Pepin following the shooting death of a shopkeeper on the weekend. 36-year-old Dwayne Phillips was killed at his shop on Tavern Crescent, Kintyre. His 53-year-old mother was also shot and has been hospitalized. It's reported that shortly after 11 o'clock Saturday night, Phillips was at his shop when two men entered. Following a brief conversation, the men pulled guns and shot Phillips several times. His mother, who went to his assistance, was also shot. Meanwhile, one of the three suspects being sought for the recent murder of a preacher in Pepin St. Andrew surrendered to the police yesterday evening. He is to be questioned in connection with the shooting of preacher David Roper. Roper was giving the sermon at his church in Mudtown last week when three gunmen entered and shot him in front of the congregation. Several residents of Carly Smith Drive are protesting the shooting of a member of the community this morning. Reports are that at around 6:15 a.m., 24-year-old Andrew Gale was picking Ackies when members of a police team searching for a wanted man ordered him to stop. The residents say the police then fired at Gale, hitting him. They say Gale ran into a nearby yard where he was then shot again and killed. Members of the Independent Commission of Investigations and the Scene of Crimes Unit were on the location until a short while ago. Police personnel were maintaining a close watch on the area as the residents cried for justice. The residents say Gale was a self-employed barber and artist who was mistaken for someone else. One Browning 9mm pistol and two 9mm cartridges were seized by lawmen during an operation in Kingswood District, Westmoreland yesterday. Reports from the Savlamar Police are that at about 3:50 a.m., a team of officers was on operation in the area when they observed a motor vehicle which aroused their suspicion. The vehicle and its occupants were searched and the firearm and ammunition seized. They were taken into custody. However, their identities are being withheld pending further investigations. The Ministry of Education says there was a smooth opening this morning of most of the country's nearly 1,000 public schools. However, the ministry says there were some matters that presented some challenges. According to Director of Corporate Communication in the ministry, Byron Buckley, these included a padlock gate at Penwood High School in St. Andrew in protest over employment of ancillary staff from without the community. He says the police were called in to break the padlock. Meanwhile, Buckley says there was a serious water situation which threatened closure of the Karen Hall High School in St. Mary. However, the NWC has made arrangements to truck water there. this afternoon. He says there was also a similar situation at Exchange All Age. Buckler says reports of a student being turned away at Happy Grove High School due to non-payment of auxiliary fee was also investigated and addressed. Meanwhile, as schools reopened today, the Jamaica Teachers Association, the JTA, is appealing to Jamaicans to give more support to teachers and the police. In a message to mark today's start of the 2015-16 school year, JTA President Norman Allen argued that teachers and the police represent critical areas of the society, but says they're under attack. He's also urging teachers to continue working with students, including those with special needs. Meanwhile, the Teachers Union says the authorities must make provision for the growth and development of students with special needs. The JTA president says the Education Ministry has agreed with the JTA that there is a significant percentage of children entering primary schools who have special needs and who remain unidentified for extended periods. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company, the JUTC, is reminding parents that students will not benefit from concessionary fares unless they are using smarter cards. The JUTC says students can travel on the buses without the smarter cards, but would have to pay the adult fare. The comments come as the first day of the 2015-16 school year gets underway. The JUTC says about 66 more buses will be on the roads of the corporate area today for the reopening of school. These would increase the fleet to 452. The number of buses was cut to 386 because of the reduced activity during the summer, largely because of the closure of schools. JUTC's Marketing and Communications Manager Clinton Clark says the company is prepared to meet the increased demand that the reopening of school will bring. You're listening to the Midday News on Newstalk 93 FM. It's 8 minutes after 12. North East St. Anne Member of Parliament Dr. Dayton Campbell is calling on his constituents to re-elect him because he has represented them well during his time.
The mission is to move people to prosperity. I'm in politics for the outcome and not the income. So the financial challenges will never be a deterrent to the mission of assisting people who are from the lower class. When you look at persons who are living in poverty and they need somebody to create an opportunity for them and to make that representation so they can be better off.
Campbell says he gets a sense of appreciation when he represents the people and sees the improvement that he can make in their lives.
A sense of appreciation and a sense of gratitude that comes from being able to execute some of those projects is way more than the financial earnings you would have from practicing medicine. And the thing is that success, I believe, is really not about making money alone. It's really about making change in people's lives. What it is that I come from very humble beginnings. There are a lot of people who I'm not related to, but I can relate to. And based on my own journey, that it is possible for persons to come out of abject poverty and to achieve their goals. And I think that they need leaders who are familiar with that journey, create a similar thing for them and their children.
North East St. Anne Member of Parliament Dr. Dayton Campbell. Meanwhile, Jamaica Labour Party candidate for St. Thomas East, Delano Seavright, says when he entered representational politics, he knew of the financial cost to represent the people.
I mean, when I got into this thing, I knew it would have been a really costly move, helping people, so trying to represent people. It is not free. I mean, to be frank, it's just not. Because there are a lot of things you have to just to get out there, to be on the ground, to be helpful, to assist.
Seavright speaks to some of the problems that exist in the society, but says some of the situations that political representatives have to address are inevitable.
Now, the problem I have is that there's a lot of poverty in Jamaica, you know. I mean, extreme poverty, where people just, I mean, back to school, for example, this summer, this time period is an extremely expensive time period for any politician who is truly on the ground, because you get the request every single solitary day. It's not that they are definitely looking for handouts, but they generally just don't have it. A lot of the people who ask for help generally don't have it, and they need a prop-up. You can't help everybody, of course.
JLP candidate for St. Thomas East, Delano Seavright. Seavright and Campbell were speaking on the evening edition. Opposition spokesman on science, ICT, and digital society development, Dr. Andrew Wheatley, is calling for changes to the cybercrimes bill that has been tabled in Parliament amid fears that it threatens freedom of expression. He has also called on the government to reconsider some of the key provisions outlined in the proposed legislation. Dr. Wheatley says he has grave concerns about the bill in its current form, as it contains provisions that may adversely impact ICT users, in addition to impeding the growth and development of the sector as a whole. He says while the need for the new provisions is understood, greater care needs to be exercised in striking a balance between enforcement on the one hand and usage of technology on the other. The Jamaica Labour Party, the JLP, is expected to discuss the decision by a Member of Parliament for North Eastern St. Catherine, Gregory Mayer, not to contest the next general election when the party's standing committee meets at Belmont Road this evening. JLP General Secretary Dr. Horace Chang says while he was not aware of reports by Constituency Executive Committee member Omar Francis that they have already identified a replacement for Mayer, the party should know when the issue is discussed tonight. According to yesterday's release from Francis, the JLP St. Catherine Northeastern Constituency Executive Election machinery is in place and has been activated. Mayer, who resigned as chairman of the constituency to allow for the selection of a successor, attributed his decision to the need to pay more attention to his personal life and his family business. In news from the region, Barbados and St. Vincent and the Grenadines have signed a treaty establishing a maritime boundary between the two countries. Barbados Prime Minister Frundle Stewart and Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, signed the treaty, which establishes a maritime boundary based on equidistance between the two islands. It is the first such treaty between Barbados and a member country of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, the OECS. Stewart says the treaty represents a palpable, tangible demonstration of a commitment to closer regional integration and closer cooperation. Meanwhile, Gonsalves says the agreement would have a number of practical consequences for St. Vincent, one of which was geothermal exploration. According to him, Reykjavik Geothermal Limited and Emera Power, the owners of Barbados Light and Power, were involved in the development of geothermal energy in his country. He says Barbados will also have an opportunity to exploit the living and non-living resources in its national waters. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has said the breathtaking flow of migrants into Germany will occupy and change that country in the coming years. She says Germany would speed up asylum procedures and build extra housing, but she has also called on other EU states to help. French President François Hollande says quotas for EU countries to relocate 120,000 migrants were being planned and that France would take 24,000. Meanwhile, the flow of migrants across Europe shows no sign of easing up. This morning, large numbers of people were reported to be streaming into Hungary across its southern border with Serbia. And finally, in the midday news, Agriculture Minister Salah Eden Helal of Egypt has been arrested shortly after resigning this morning. Security and judicial sources say he was being held as part of a corruption probe. A statement from the Prime Minister's office says Helal resigned on the orders of President Abdul Fattah al-Sisi. It is the first arrest of a high-profile official in a case such as this since Sisi was elected in May 2014. Reports say the arrest is in connection with allegations that officials took bribes to help businessmen illegally acquire government lands. That's the news. Now for a look at the weather. A tropical wave is east of Jamaica. This tropical wave is expected to move across the island this evening. For the rest of the afternoon, expect isolated showers and thunderstorms, mainly across central and western parishes. Tonight it will be partly cloudy. To end the news, the main points. West Kingston inquiry hears a former resident accuse soldiers of stealing her clothes and jewelry. Collie Smith Drive residents protest shooting of a member of the community by the police this morning. Ministry of Education says today saw a smooth start to the beginning of the new school year, and JLP concerned that new Cyber Crimes Act threatens freedom of expression. That's the midday news right here on Newstalk 93 FM. I'm Errol Lee. Stand by for the news in the Jamaican language.
Broadcast Jamaican and Newstalk 93 FM now gear the news in the Jamaican language.
Good afternoon. My name is Kadeen Marshall, and these are the news in the Jamaican language. The Denham High School in West Kingston almost opened today without light because the Jamaica Public Service JPS cut off them light from last Wednesday. This one caused the school over $12 million. As according to Ruth Johnson, where the corporate communication manager, them cut off the light cause the school owe them, but them put it on back cause the school pay JPS some money and agree to pay the rest. But principal for the school, R.J. Williams, said the school no owe all of the money there. And the people them in the community run up the bill so I wear thief light from the school. Almost 500,000 basic school, primary and high school picnics start go back to school today. As according to Ronald Tweet, where the Minister for Education, he might want the parent them and the school principal them say every picnic must stay in a school and stay there. In a back to school message, Tweet say education are the most important thing to one picnic and nobody never stop them from get it. Him say all of the principal and teacher them must make sure so them do them best towards the picnic them. The St. Andrew Central Police said them watch some part of Papine after a gunman shot and killed one shopkeeper over the weekend. Him a 36 years old Dwayne Phillips and him 53 years old mother get shot too. She in a hospital right now. As according to the report, little after 11 Saturday night, Phillips been in him shop when two men come in. Them been attack little, then them shoot him up. His mother run for go help him and them shot her in her head. Nobody no know why them shot them. News from the rest of the Caribbean. The people them in Trinidad and Tobago are voting in them general election today. Either the ruling People Partnership PPP coalition or the Opposition People National Movement PMP are going to form the new government. Some people are say anybody will win are going to find one way to deal with the recession where the country faces, the high crime rate and enough other things. Enough people normally turn out for vote in the country election and them expect over 750,000 people to come out and vote. News from foreign. François Hollande, where the president for France, so like how Ukraine and Russia top war, them for take off some of the ban them and for Russia. Hollande will keep on meeting with the leader them from Germany, Russia and Ukraine later in the month. He said the two countries make progress with the peace deal from February, but them still have other things to do for the betterment of the two countries them. Me name Kadeen Marshall and that are the news in the Jamaican language. Wait upon the weather. Now for the weather. One tropical wave, the east of Jamaica. The tropical wave are going to move across the island this evening. Now for Jamaica all day weather. This afternoon, we will look out for some rain and thunderstorm across the central and western parish them. Tonight, I will have some cloud. Me name Kadeen Marshall and that are the weather in the Jamaican language.
Broadcast Jamaican and Newstalk 93 FM just gave the news in the Jamaican language.
The Midday Sports Report is brought to you by Newstalk 93 FM, life-changing sports radio.
Good afternoon. I am Mikhail Drama Johns with your Midday Sports Report here on Newstalk 93 FM. We begin with football. Following a 3-2 defeat at the office on a Friday evening, head coach Winfred Schaefer says his Reggae Boys can bounce back and win their tie against Nicaragua come tomorrow night. The meeting on Friday saw Nicaragua netting 2 early goals to be leading 2-0 within 10 minutes of the first whistle before adding a third early second half. The boys would have a late surge, netting 2 goals in the latter half of the second. There were, however, numerous botched attempts, seeing the hosts have to settle for the loss. Schaefer says in order to rally back, the boys must must believe in themselves and return to their core values of executing as a unit. Meanwhile, the return leg set for tomorrow will be without striker Giles Barnes. He has been ruled out of the return leg round 3 CONCACAF World Cup qualifying tie as he is not allowed to play on artificial surfaces. Barnes' place has been taken by Upston Edwards. Meanwhile, there is also a concern for captain Rodolphe Austin, who is the only player from the 24-man squad yet to arrive. The return leg is slated for tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Jamaica time at the National Football Stadium in Managua. And avoiding relegation is good enough for the University of the West Indies UAFC as they begin life in the top tier of local club football. They opened their Registrar Premier League RSPL account this evening against title holders Arnett Gardens FC in the flagship Monday night show starting at 8:30 p.m. It will be the first of many tests over the next 9 months, and head coach Marcel Gale is relying on hard work coupled with divine help. Still on football, results in action over the weekend of the Western Sports-sponsored football competition saw NMIA beating Wysinko 2-0 in Division 1. Meanwhile, in Division 2, ATL blanked NCC 4-0 and NCB clipped NHT 2-1. The other fixture in the Division 1 was a 1-0 beating of Guardsman by Pepsi. Meanwhile, Metrodate Protection and Security, Grace Kennedy and Scotiabank have qualified for the Division 1 semi-finals. Peak Bottling, Sagicor Group, ATL and NCB are the qualifiers for the semi-finals in Division 2. And as for the KSA Business House five-a-side competition, that will restart this evening, and later on today we will be giving you the fixtures. And now to take a look at track and field. World champion Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price broke a 25-year-old meet record set in 1990 by compatriot Merlene Otte after she clocked 10.98 seconds to win the women's 100 meters at the 24th meeting City di Padova, Italy yesterday. Fraser-Price, who ended her season after winning 2 gold medals, retaining the women's 100 meters and was part of the winning Jamaican women's 4x100 meters team at the World Championships in Beijing, China, erased the mark previously set of 10.99 seconds, and that was set by Otte on September 16, 1990. Brazil's Rosangelo Santos was second in 11.42 seconds, while American Shalanda Solomon third in 11.50 seconds. Natasha Morrison of Jamaica was also in that race, and she placed fourth. Meanwhile, for the men, Nesta Carter was the best-placed Jamaican in the men's 100 meters, placing third in 10.34 seconds. Qatar's Femi Ogunode won in a meet record at 10.07 seconds to beat the 10.09 seconds set by Carter himself in the year 2012. Meanwhile, second was Mike Rogers of America in 10.12 seconds. And Rashid Dwa, who won the first section in 10.37 seconds, was fourth overall, while Julian Ford, who ran the second section, was eighth overall in 10.62 seconds. Meanwhile, Andrew Riley won the men's 110 meters hurdles yesterday at the ISTAF Berlin at the Olympic Stadium in Germany, the 10th of 12 IAAF World Challenge meetings, and he won the event in a time of 13.40 seconds. Meanwhile, in the field, IAAF World Championships bronze medalist Dane Richards was third in the shot put, while discus thrower Jason Morgan was eighth in his event. Riley, who was a semi-finalist at the World Championships in Beijing, China, beat a decent field as Barbados' Shane Brathwaite was second in 13.42 seconds and Hungary's Balázs Beji was third in 13.55 seconds. As for Richards, he threw 21.69 meters earlier this season and doing so twice, but yesterday his best throw was 21.05 meters as he was beaten by Thomas Walsh of New Zealand with 21.47 meters and Germany's Davis Storl second with 21.19 meters. As for Morgan, he threw 60.10 meters in the discus for 8th place, as Piotr Malachowski of Poland won with 66.13 meters, and Germany's Christoph Harting was second with 65.15 meters. And that's it for the Midday Sports Report here on Newstalk 93 FM. I am Mikhail Drama Johns, wishing you a good afternoon.
That was your Midday Sports Report brought to you by Newstalk 93 FM, life-changing radio.
This is Newstalk